as the moon cast eerie shadows across the old manor. My friends and I embarked on a sleepover adventure that would forever haunt our dreams. It was a cold autumn night when we gathered at Midnight Manor, a place whispered to be cursed by generations past. The night began innocently enough, with laughter and snacks filling the air as we settled into the grand living room. An antique chandelier swayed gently overhead, as if the spirits of the past were watching our every move. I dismissed the feeling of unease, attributing it to the ghost stories we'd shared earlier. As the hours passed, a chill crept through the room. We decided to explore the manor, curious about its history. In a dusty study, we stumbled upon an old photo album, revealing images of a family that once called this place home. Their eyes seemed to follow us, their smiles frozen in time. Goosebumps prickled my skin, but I shrugged off the unease. As the clock struck midnight, strange occurrences intensified. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways, and whispers brushed against our ears. We gathered in the dimly lit dining room for a late-night feast, but our food turned to ashes in our mouths. A faint, mournful wail seemed to seep through the walls, sending shivers down our spines. We dared to venture into the manor's labyrinthine basement, guided only by flickering candles. An unsettling air clung to the surroundings, and we stumbled upon an ancient Ouija board, ignoring warnings. We summoned spirits from the beyond. The planchette moved with a mind of its own, spelling out ominous messages that promised an eternity of darkness. Back in the safety of the living room, a deep exhaustion settled over us. One by one, my friends succumbed to slumber, but I remained awake, my heart pounding as I heard faint whispers that seemed to come from within the walls themselves. A figure materialized in the corner of the room, a spectral woman in a tattered gown, her mournful eyes locked onto mine. Paralyzed with fear, I watched as she floated closer, her voice echoing in my mind. She spoke of a tragic tale involving forbidden love, betrayal, and an untimely death. The manor, it seemed, was a prison for souls tormented by their pasts. Her story painted a gruesome picture of the curse that had plagued this place for generations. With the first light of dawn, the apparition faded, leaving me shaken to my core. I woke my friends, recounting the horrifying encounter, but they brushed it off as a nightmare. The manor appeared tranquil once more, as if the night's events had been nothing more than a twisted dream. Yet, I knew the truth. The horrors of Midnight Manor were real, etched into my memory forever. Though we left that place, the haunting lingered, a reminder that some stories are more chilling than fiction, a reminder that the past can never truly be buried. The night was dark and heavy with an unsettling silence as we gathered for a sleepover at Emily's old creaky house. We had heard whispers about its eerie history, but curiosity got the better of us. As the clock struck midnight, we settled into our sleeping bags, giggling nervously. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, and the ancient floorboards groaned beneath us. Despite our bravado, a sense of unease settled over us, like a thick fog. The wind howled outside, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. As the night wore on, the atmosphere grew more oppressive. An unsettling chill permeated the air, and I noticed Emily's once cheerful demeanor had turned pale. We tried to distract ourselves with games and movies, but an unshakable sense of dread hung in the air. It was when we decided to tell ghost stories that things took a sinister turn. As each tale unfolded, strange noises echoed through the house, soft whispers, distant footsteps, and the occasional faint laughter. We nervously laughed it off as our overactive imaginations, But deep down, we all felt the hairs on the back of our necks stand on end. Hours passed, and exhaustion began to catch up with us. We agreed to call it a night, hoping that sleep would offer solace from our growing anxiety. I closed my eyes, trying to drift into slumber, but every creak of the floorboards and every gust of wind felt like a lurking presence. Suddenly, I awoke to a chilling sensation. My heart raced as I realized I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, trapped in a body that refused to respond. Panic surged through me as I heard faint whispers around me, too indistinct to understand. Shadows danced at the edge of my vision, and a cold breath brushed against my skin. Desperation clawed at me as I struggled to break free from my immobile state. The darkness seemed to close in, suffocating and malevolent. I fought against an unseen force, my mind racing with terror. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the paralysis released its grip on me. I shot up, gasping for air, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was quiet and still, the shadows now just ordinary shapes cast by the moonlight. I woke the others, shaken and terrified, recounting my experience. Emily's face was ashen as she confessed that she too had felt an invisible presence holding her down. The others shared their own eerie encounters from that night. Unexplained footsteps, distant voices, and the sensation of being watched. As the first rays of dawn broke through the windows, we exchanged fearful glances. Whatever had haunted that house seemed to have left its mark on us. We packed up our things in a hurry, eager to escape the oppressive atmosphere that had enveloped us. Even though the sun was shining and we were finally free of that house, an unsettling feeling lingered. We had entered that sleepover as curious teenagers, but we left as witnesses to something beyond our comprehension, a night of inexplicable horrors that would forever haunt our memories. I'll never forget the night we decided to have a sleepover at Hollowbrook Manor. It was an old, abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town that had a reputation for being haunted. My friends and I were always drawn to the macabre, so we thought spending a night there would be an exciting adventure. As the sun set and darkness enveloped the manor, a chill crept down my spine. The wind whispered through the overgrown trees, and the creaking of the old house seemed to echo with a haunting melody. We lit candles to create an eerie ambience, casting flickering shadows on the cracked walls. We huddled together in the dimly lit living room, telling each other ghost stories to heighten the suspense. Laughter mingled with nervous glances as we tried to shake off the growing unease. Hours passed, and fatigue began to win over. Fear. One by one, my friends drifted off to sleep on the worn-out couches. I, however, found myself unable to succumb to slumber. A strange feeling tugged at my senses, and I decided to explore the manor in search of answers. Armed with a flashlight, I ventured into the corridors. The air was heavy with the scent of dust and decay, and the floorboards groaned beneath my footsteps. I made my way to the grand staircase, its ornate banister seemingly untouched by time. As I climbed, a soft whisper reached my ears, carrying my name on the wind. Heart pounding, I froze. My flashlight flickered, casting erratic shadows on the walls. I strained to listen, but the house seemed to hold its breath. With cautious steps, I continued up the stairs and into a hallway that was inexplicably colder than the rest of the house. The walls were adorned with faded portraits, their subjects staring back with hollow eyes. A chill ran down my spine as I realized the eyes seemed to follow me. As I moved further down the corridor, a door creaked open on its own. My breath caught in my throat as I cautiously entered the room. Inside, an antique vanity stood, adorned with tarnished mirrors and forgotten trinkets. A soft, sobbing sound echoed in the air, and I turned to see a pale figure seated at the vanity. My heart raced as I approached the figure, whose face was hidden in her hands. With trembling hands, I reached out to touch her shoulder, but before I could make contact, the room plunged into darkness. The sobbing grew louder, the air thick with a sense of despair. My flashlight flickered back to life, revealing an empty room. Terrified, I stumbled back into the hallway, desperate to escape the oppressive atmosphere. As I made my way downstairs, I found my friend still asleep, oblivious to the supernatural events that had unfolded. I woke them, and we fled the manor, leaving behind the darkness that seemed to cling to its walls. To this day, I can't explain what happened that night. Was it a restless spirit or a trick of my imagination? All I know is that something otherworldly resides within Hollowbrook Manor, and it's a place I'll never dare to visit again. Subscribe for more horror stories.